needs must have the precious. They stole it from us. Sneaky little hobbitses. Wicked, tricksy, fierce.
So, recently I had a debate, I guess you'd call it, with an old friend of mine, an environmentalist. She comes from a long line of tree-hugging greenies. And yeah, I was interested. She brought up in the conversation, she said that she recently went to the protests where the kids were taking a day off school to protest against climate change. And yeah, she went along to this because she's involved in all that stuff. Not as much as she used to be, but she still basically is in touch with all the greenie movement, the environmentalists. So I said to her, yeah, that's interesting that, you know, the kids are marching against climate change, but who exactly are they protesting against? Is it the politicians, or is it the people that voted for those politicians? Because last time I checked, this is a democracy, and if the majority of the population is not happy with the environmental policies of the elected politicians, then it's not long before those politicians get kicked out. Of course, in the perfect world. I agree that it doesn't always work out as well as that, but my general point is that, yeah, if you're going to protest against anyone, it should be the voting population. You should be trying to change the minds of the voters, so that the next election, yeah, we get someone in that is more serious about climate policy. But yeah, since I've been back in Australia, I've done a lot of, because this climate business has come up a lot, and I've done a lot of research. I've been interested in it because I've had internet access and I've been able to research it more. This whole environmental situation that we're in, and our reaction as a society to that. And there's a lot of stuff on the internet about a lot of warnings about this new wave of environmentalism that's coming through. Not a lot, but if you look for them enough, you'll find them. And of course, you know, with YouTube and things like that, once you look at one video, you get more and more videos lining up for you to watch on the same topic. But there are a lot of warnings about this kind of movement, saying that it's getting too radicalized, that the left, which usually goes hand in hand with the environment, is getting radicalized and it's getting dangerous. And most of it you kind of listen to, you think, yeah, it's probably not true, you know. But yeah, the warnings are that the left is getting radicalized, that they're willing to destroy our current system in order to get their own way. In order to save the environment, they're willing to destroy the system that we have in place at the moment.
There's time, but we can't do it by just pissing around at the margins of the problem. We've got to go straight to the heart of capitalism and overthrow it.
And I sort of, yeah, when I watched all these videos and read this stuff online, I kind of took it with a grain of salt. But speaking to my friend the other day about her, she'd just come back. It was the day after the rally or the march or whatever. So she'd come back all kind of hyped up. You know how a group of people get together and, you know, with the same motivations, and they come away from their meeting a bit more hyped up than what they went in. And so yeah, this was the day after that I had this conversation with her, and I said, but what was the idea behind the march? Because as I said, you know, the politicians we have here in Australia have been voted in, so obviously their policies reflect what most Australians want and believe about the environment. And her attitude was, no, we need to smash the system. We need to smash the system to get rid of these politicians. And I kind of heard, I was like, wow, that's amazing, you know, that she would actually say that, because that's kind of like what a lot of these people online have been warning about. Jordan Peterson is a name that I'll bring up here. He warns about this kind of thing. He's saying that the left is getting way too radicalized, way too violent.
If you don't understand that the left has gone too far, then you're woefully ignorant or you're willfully blind.
Yeah, you only have to look back in history to, you know, the communist era and all the problems that brought. And he's basically saying, yeah, that this new wave of leftist environmentalists are heading down that line. And it's only after speaking to my friend that it kind of clicked over in my head that, yeah, that's kind of the same situation, that you get a group of intellectuals who believe that they're intellectuals above everyone else somehow, with their perspective, their knowledge on what's going on in the world, and they come in and they just take over because they believe what they're doing is for the good of society. Whether society wants it or not, they'll come in and they'll take over a system and impose their doctrine on society for the good of society. That's usually what they believe, that they're doing it for the good of everyone. And yeah, I was really amazed to hear from my friend that same kind of idea from her, that yeah, it's time to smash the system. Democracy is broken. It's not serving the people anymore. Let's smash democracy. You know, let's resolve the issue of climate. And then this was all what she was saying. She said, you know, that's what we need to do. We need to take over democracy, take over the system, resolve this climate issue, because that's underneath, that's truly what everyone wants. But she believes that democracy sort of pushes down public opinion. You know, like you've got big business, big oil, big gas, whatever, big coal, paying the government or paying, I don't know, putting up advertising campaigns and somehow swaying the public opinion of the people into voting for the wrong people. So her understanding of the situation is that, yeah, we need to take over, as in the leftist greenies, need to smash the system, take over, resolve the climate issue, and then bring in a new era of democracy. That brings me to my next point that I wanted to bring up on the environmental movement. This whole issue of how we're going to solve this problem. Apparently we only have 12 years to do it, so Jesus. How the environmentalists plan to solve the issue of climate change. And this debate with my friend continued along this line. not in person. This was all done over the phone, in messages and sending each other articles that we'd found online and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, the basic idea of any, pretty much 99% of environmental movements, you know, they make up these policies and reports and roadmaps on how they're going to solve this problem. The Green New Deal, for instance, that's an example of this. But in Australia we have equivalent ideas. We had one done in 2016, which my friend sent to me. Yeah, she sent me this article and said this is how we should go about it, and I read over it, and it was basically, you know, we're going to be 100% renewable by, I don't know, 2040 or whatever they were saying, 2050, roadmap to how we're going to get there. And yeah, it's all solar power and wind power. And this is just to resolve the issue of electricity. So this is like just 25% of the problem, mind you. This is what we're arguing about here. This is what me and my friend were arguing about. Yeah, so the idea is basically wind and solar. You know, when I read over this report, these kind of things you see online, they say, yeah, we're going to have a variety of ways to resolve the issue. We're going to have hydro, we're going to have wind, we're going to have solar, we're going to have geothermal. Okay, you can take out, this is just my understanding, I'm no expert, but as far as I'm aware, hydro is pretty much maxed out. Anywhere where you can build a dam, in this country, in most countries in the world, if people see the opportunity to build a dam and put a generator there, it's been done, trust me, many years ago. So the idea of expanding hydro is just not going to work. There's no more places to put big dams and generators. Geothermal, I don't know much about geothermal, but as far as I'm aware, it's the same kind of issue. You've got a few spots in the world where you can do it. I believe in Australia it was tried and it failed. The government put money into geothermal somewhere in the country and it didn't work. So what you're left with basically, when you read between the lines of these so-called roadmap policies to 100% renewable, is that we're going to have to rely on wind and solar. Alright, fair enough, wind and solar, but we've got the issue then of storage of the energy, because you need to store the energy that's created by wind and solar. And that technology does not exist. We do not have the technology to store the electricity generated by wind and solar, because you need electricity at night when there's no sun and no wind. You need to have some sort of storage system for that energy. So yeah, it got me kind of curious, because she sent me this first report, which was, it basically was a supposed report, but when you look through it, you cannot read. There's only one little part where it says about batteries. We're going to ramp up the production of batteries, something along these lines, and that's it. That's how they supposedly deal with the issue of storage, which is a huge problem with wind and solar. You need to store the electricity. So yeah, me and my friend were going on back and forth, you know. My point was saying that this technology does not exist. These reports rely on technology that has not yet been proven. Sure, yeah, it's been invented. You know, you've got there's ways to store electricity, yeah, but feasibly, it's never been done. I challenged my friend. I said, show me a country or a state or a city or a village or even a group of houses that works like this, that has some sort of battery system and some wind turbines and some solar panels. Show me a group of people, a group of houses or anything that actually operates like this today. And she couldn't find it. She couldn't find a single example where the electricity was produced by wind and solar and stored by batteries. And and where the people had normal, first world, rich world electricity coming through their houses. It just doesn't exist. Why doesn't that exist? Because the technology does not yet exist. The technology exists. Don't get me wrong, it does exist. There are batteries, there are systems, they're testing. And yeah, you could, build it, and you could store the electricity for a group of houses or even a small town. The cost would be unbelievably exorbitant to do based on our present technologies to store electricity in this way. So yeah, feasibly, no, the technology does not exist. And this is what people need to realize, that there is no solution. As Bill Gates said in an interview, there is no solution. At the moment, we do not have the solution. This is what people need to realize. Anyone telling you, yes, we can do it, it's 100% doable, is lying. It's propaganda. It's leftist propaganda. And the reason, I believe, that the environmentalists will tell you, yes, we have the technology, we can do it, it's a political issue, not a technology issue. I believe that the reason these guys say that is because they want to get into power. It's plain and simple. They want power. They want to get into office, We've got this problem, we know how to fix it, vote for us, we'll fix the problem. But they can't fix the problem. They don't have the technology. Wind and solar is not the technology to fix our power and transport issues.
There is no substitute for how the industrial economy runs today. So the idea that we have the current tools, and it's just because these utility people are evil people, and if we would just beat on them and put it on our rooftop, that's more of a block than climate denial. The climate is easy to solve group is our biggest problem.
This brings me to my next point. Why is it that the environmental movement has not addressed the issue of nuclear power yet? Because nuclear power is CO2 free, it has no emissions apart from the manufacturing of the actual reactor and the transport of the uranium and the mining of the uranium. Apart from that, it has no CO2 emissions. Why is it that nowhere in the environmentalist movement have they embraced, well, in very few examples, have they embraced the possibility of nuclear as an answer? Because it's getting to the stage now where we need to do something drastic. We can't sit around, mucking around, wondering if we're going to be able to solve this issue with, new types of batteries or molten salt or pressurized things in the ground to contain the energy we need to power the cities. We don't have time to do that. We need to look at what we have and go with that. If it's as drastic and as dire as they make it out to be, we need to start using what we have. And what we have is nuclear power. That's all we have. That's our only answer. Nuclear power. There's nothing else. There's no other way. We don't have any other technology to replace our power needs today. Nuclear power is the only thing. And yeah, nuclear power's got problems, but surely those problems are outweighed by the bigger problem of climate change. Surely. You've got to get to a point where you say, well, yep, it's dangerous. We've got to store the waste, blah, blah, blah. But those dangers are outweighed by the problem that we're having with the planet warming up. You know, we need to do something now. Why is it that hardly any environmentalists have come around to this? They're just, you know, still going on with their wind and solar, wind and solar. Wind and solar, that's all it is. I believe the reason is that they don't really, that environmentalists underneath, they don't really actually care about the environment. I believe that environmentalists, they want power, all right? Nuclear energy would not allow them to get into power. Nuclear energy is technology we already have. It's big business, it's big money. It's something we could do based on our current capitalist system. We could do it. We've got the technology. And I believe that environmentalists don't want nuclear technology, not because of the inherent risks that come with generating nuclear energy. I believe it's the fact that it won't provide power for them, political power. And why is that? Well, wind and solar, if it was actually going to work, we would have to destroy our current system. Capitalism would have to die. We would have to take all the money from the rich and spend it on this ridiculous system to be able to power our cities. We would have to steal all the money from the rich. There'd be no more 1%. We'd have to take all that money and use it to build this unbelievably ridiculous white elephant of a system to power our cities. And I believe that that's the underlying motivations of environmentalists, is that they want power. They want to bring in socialism, communism, whatever you want to call it, but they're resentful of the rich. They want to take that money from the rich and they want to use it to solve the problem we have with the climate. So I believe that's the underlying reason. I believe that environmentalists are actually dragging their feet. They're actually doing damage. You know, if we've only got 12 years, I mean, I'm no expert. You know, I'm not going to be a climate denier. And if scientists tell me this, then yeah, fair enough. You know, let's try to do something about it. You know, but just looking at it from an outsider's perspective, to me, it seems as if the environmentalists, the greenies, all these kind of people, they're actually doing more harm than good.